After Mom passed, my stepsister snatched the $1 million inheritance, yelling, "Mom loved me more than you." When I fought for my share, she swore to sue me. But months later, in court, she fell silent as the judge dropped. Mom had left it all to me. I sat stiffly in the lawyer's office, my hands clenched so tightly that my nails bit into my palms, leaving small crescent-shaped marks. It felt as if I were detached from my own body, floating somewhere above, watching the moment unfold in slow motion. Across from me, my stepsister Monica lounged in her chair, legs elegantly crossed, a smug smile curving her lips. Mr. Harmon cleared his throat, adjusting his glasses as he prepared to speak. The estate of the late Mrs. Davenport. But Monica rolled her eyes, cutting him off with a dramatic sigh. "Let's just skip to the part where I get everything." I stared at her. My mother's death had wrecked me, and I was still barely functioning. Yet here she was, treating this like a game show where she was the grand prize winner. Mr. Harmon frowned at the interruption, but continued. "As per the most recently filed and notarized will, the entire estate, including all monetary assets, properties, and investments, has been left solely to Monica Davenport." I went numb. My ears started ringing. I felt my stomach drop as if I had been standing on solid ground, only to realize there was nothing beneath me. Monica grinned and clapped her hands together. "Perfect. I knew Mom would do the right thing." I couldn't form words. Couldn't breathe. There had to be a mistake. Mom had been clear her entire life. Everything was to be split equally between us. Monica turned to look at me, her expression smug. "Oh, don't look so shocked," she said sweetly. "Mom knew I deserved it more than you." I finally found my voice. "She wouldn't do that." Monica rolled her eyes, letting out a dramatic sigh. "Of course you'd say that, but guess what she did, and it's legal and there's nothing you can do about it." I turned to Mr. Harmon. "There's no way this is right. She always told me everything would be split." He looked uncomfortable, but didn't deny it. "I can only go by the most recent will that was submitted and notarized." Monica leaned forward, her tone mocking. "If you really want to waste your time fighting this, be my guest. Just know that I will take you to court and I will win." Her voice was dripping with confidence, and the worst part? She wasn't wrong. Monica had money for the best lawyers. I didn't. She had always been ruthless. She lived for control. I had seen it before. How she manipulated people. How she twisted situations to make herself the victim while crushing anyone in her way. And now she had taken everything. I walked out of that office feeling hollow. The next few months were hell. While I was grieving, Monica was celebrating. She wasted no time burning through what was supposed to be our inheritance. She sold Mom's house, the home I had grown up in, without a second thought. She bought a brand new Mercedes, flaunting it on social media with captions like, "Living my best life, thanks Mom." She took luxurious vacations to Paris, Dubai, the Maldives, posting picture after picture of herself lounging by infinity pools, sipping expensive champagne. Meanwhile, I was struggling. I had poured my savings into my mother's medical care before she passed, assuming I'd be able to rebuild after the inheritance was settled. But now I had nothing. I was working overtime just to afford rent while Monica was out buying designer handbags worth more than my monthly paycheck. It made me sick, and no matter how hard I tried to move on, something kept nagging at me. Something wasn't right. One day, I ran into Margaret, my mother's best friend. She grabbed my arm, her eyes sharp. "Have you seen what that girl is doing?" she asked, voice tight with anger. I sighed. "I try not to." Margaret let out a harsh breath. "I knew something was wrong when I saw that will." That caught my attention. "What do you mean?" I asked. Margaret's lips pressed together before she finally said, "Your mother called me the day before she went to the hospital. She told me she had just finalized everything and was relieved you were taken care of." I went completely still. "What?" I whispered. Margaret nodded firmly. "She was at peace because she made sure you were protected." My stomach twisted. If Mom had just finalized her will, then how the hell had a different one cutting me out entirely been submitted just 3 months before? There was only one explanation: somebody had changed it, and there was only one person who stood to benefit Monica. I hired a lawyer, even though I could barely afford it, and told him everything. He took me seriously, more seriously than I expected. We started pulling records, combing through legal documents, tracing Mom's last meetings. And then we found it. The date on the new will, the one that cut me out, was 3 months before my mother died. That also happened to be when she was in the hospital, heavily medicated and barely lucid. She wouldn't have been able to make any legal decisions. But you know who would have? Monica. I felt like I was going to be sick. We kept pushing, and I hired a forensic expert to analyze the signature on the will. When the results came back, my hands were shaking. The signature was forged. Monica had faked the entire thing. The trial was an absolute circus. Monica came in dressed like she was the victim, sniffling into a tissue, acting like I was the one trying to steal from her. She put on a whole performance, crying about how she was just following Mom's wishes, and how I was jealous because I was never the favorite. I sat there silent, fists clenched under the table. Then the expert witness took the stand. He walked the courtroom through his findings, explaining in brutal detail how my mother's signature on the new will was an exact overlay of her previous signatures, something only possible if someone had traced it. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Monica stiffened. Then Mr. Harmon, the original lawyer, was called in. He admitted, under oath, that he had never met my mother in person to update the will. He had only received the document via email. And guess who had sent that email? Monica. Bank records showed that a large sum of money had been withdrawn from my mother's account on the same day the new will was signed. And where had that money gone? Straight into Monica's account. She tried to argue, tried to lie her way out of it. But the evidence was too much. And when the judge started speaking, Monica's face went completely pale. Her smugness was gone. Monica's smugness had vanished. Her face was drained of color, her lips pressed together so tightly they turned white. The courtroom was silent, the weight of the evidence hanging heavy in the air. The judge adjusted his glasses and cleared his throat. Ms. Monica Davenport, do you have an explanation for this? Monica's hands were shaking. For the first time in her life, she had nothing to say. I watched her closely, heart pounding. I had waited for this moment, for her to finally be exposed, but something about her silence unsettled me. Then she did something I never expected. She stood up so fast her chair scraped loudly against the floor. "This is all a lie," she shrieked. "This is a setup. He's trying to steal from me." The judge banged his gavel. "Miss Davenport, sit down now, or you will be held in contempt." Monica hesitated, but finally dropped back into her chair. Her lawyer whispered something in her ear, but she shook her head violently. I could see the panic in her eyes, the gears turning in her head as she tried to figure out a way out of this. But there was no way out. She had been caught. And then, just when I thought it was over, her lawyer stood up. "Your Honor," he said smoothly, buttoning his expensive suit, "my client has new information that may change the course of this case." I felt my stomach drop. The judge gave him a wary look. "What information?" Monica suddenly straightened into my horror. Her face changed. Her panic was gone. It was like watching a snake shed its skin. She smiled. And then, with the confidence of someone who had just played her best card, she said, "I have another will." My breath caught. The courtroom broke into whispers. The judge held up a hand for silence. "Another will?" Monica nodded, looking so damn pleased with herself. "That's right, and this one wasn't submitted before because I was trying to protect my mother's privacy." I almost laughed. The audacity of this woman. Her lawyer handed over a thick envelope. This document was found in a safe deposit box, registered under Mrs. Davenport's name. We will provide proof of its authenticity. I clenched my fists. This had to be fake. The judge took the envelope and flipped through the papers inside, his expression unreadable. After a long, tense moment, he sighed. "We will need to verify this document." Monica's grin widened. She thought she had one again. My lawyer wasted no time challenging the new will. We demanded forensic analysis, more handwriting tests, and a full investigation into where this so-called safe deposit box had come from. Monica's lawyer fought tooth and nail to block every request. That alone told me everything I needed to know. This one was fake too. And I was right. A week later, the forensic team delivered their findings. Not only was the signature forged again, but this time, Monica had been sloppier. The ink was too fresh. The notary stamp didn't match any registered in the state. And the biggest mistake? The document referred to a bank account my mother had already closed before she passed. Monica had rushed this forgery. And now she was trapped. When the judge called her back to court, she was furious. She had lost control of the narrative, and she knew it. So, she did what she always did. She tried to flip the script. "I was forced to do this," she wailed in front of the entire courtroom. "I was tricked. My brother manipulated everything to make it seem like I was guilty." I stared at her stunned. Even now, after everything, she was trying to paint herself as the victim. But the judge was done. "Miss Davenport," he said, his voice cold, "you are on the verge of perjury. I strongly advise you to choose your next words wisely." Monica froze. For the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. But instead of backing down, she did something that left everyone in shock. She turned to her own lawyer and hissed, "You said they wouldn't catch it. You told me this would work." A gasp rippled through the courtroom. Her lawyer's face went red. "Monica, shut up," he whispered harshly, but it was too late. She had just thrown herself and her lawyer under the bus. "I swear," I saw the judge smirk before he composed himself. "This case has taken a very serious turn," he said. "Court is adjourned until further notice. We will be launching a criminal investigation into these documents." I barely heard the gavel hit the desk. I was too busy watching Monica's face crumble. She had just dug her own grave. That night, after the hearing, I was at home, trying to process everything when I got a phone call. An unknown number. I hesitated but answered. A deep, unfamiliar voice spoke. "You need to stop digging." I froze. What? A low chuckle. "Drop the case, kid, or things might get messy." Then the line went dead. I sat there, gripping my phone, my heart racing. This wasn't just about Monica anymore. Someone else was involved. Someone bigger. And now they were threatening me. I sat there, gripping my phone so tightly my fingers ached. The voice on the other end had been deep, calm, too calm. "Drop the case, kid, or things might get messy." Then, just like that, the call had ended. I felt my stomach turn. This wasn't just about Monica anymore. Someone else was involved. Someone with enough power to make threats. And I had no idea who they were. The next night, I got home late. My lawyer and I had been strategizing, and I was exhausted. I pushed open the door to my apartment, and instantly, my skin went cold. The place was trashed. Drawers were ripped open, papers scattered everywhere. The couch cushions had been slashed open, stuffing spilling out like torn flesh, and on the wall, scrawled in red spray paint, were 3 words, "Drop the case." I backed up so fast I nearly tripped over my own feet. My heart was pounding in my ears. Whoever had done this had been looking for something. But what? I called the police, but the officer who arrived barely seemed interested. "No cameras?" he asked, scratching the back of his head. I shook my head. "No," he let out a sigh. "Look, these things happen. Probably some local punks trying to scare you." I could feel my frustration rising. Local punks don't leave threats about legal cases. The officer just shrugged. Nothing was stolen, right? I hesitated. He was right. None of my electronics were missing. My wallet had been on the counter, untouched. Whoever did this wasn't here to rob me. They were sending a message. And the officer clearly had no intention of helping. "Look," he said, "we'll file a report. But unless you've got cameras or witnesses, there's not much we can do." I stared at him in disbelief. "That's it." He gave me a tight-lipped smile, like he wanted to be anywhere but here. "That's it." And then he left. I stood in the middle of my destroyed apartment, heart hammering. This was bigger than Monica, and if I kept pushing, I might not just lose the case. I might not make it out at all. The next day I met with my lawyer Daniel. When I told him about the break-in, he went pale. "This isn't just intimidation," he said, voice low. "They're escalating." I nodded, "And I don't even know who they are." Daniel rubbed his jaw deep in thought, then he reached for his laptop. "I think it's time we start looking into Monica's lawyer." I frowned while he tapped the keyboard a few times, then turned the screen toward me. "This guy isn't just a lawyer. He has ties to organized crime." My stomach dropped. Daniel pointed at the screen. "See this?" He pulled up a news article. 5 years ago, he was investigated for money laundering. The charges got dropped, but everyone knew he was guilty. I stared at the article, my pulse racing. Monica wasn't smart enough to pull this off on her own, but if she had connections, that explained the threats. The break-in. The police not taking it seriously. I looked up at Daniel. Do you think she knows who she's working with? He sighed. I doubt it. Monica's an idiot. She probably thought she was just hiring a tough lawyer, but she might have gotten herself tangled up in something she can't control. I swallowed hard. So what do we do? Daniel's expression hardened. We take this case public. The next day, I got an email. It was from an anonymous sender, but the subject line sent a chill down my spine. Evidence against Monica? Urgent. I hesitated. Every instinct told me this was a trap, but I had to know. I opened the email. Inside was a link. No message, no explanation. Just a link. I took a screenshot and sent it to Daniel. His response came almost immediately. Do not click that. I swallowed hard and called him. What is it? I asked. Daniel's voice was sharp. That's a phishing link. If you had clicked it, they could have accessed your entire computer. Your emails, your bank accounts, everything. My hands started shaking. Monica, or whoever she was working with, was trying to hack me. Jesus, I breathed. Daniel exhaled hard. This is getting dangerous. They're getting desperate. I nodded, gripping the phone tightly, which means we're getting close. A few days later, I got a call from Margaret, my mom's best friend. She sounded nervous. You need to come over, she said. Now, I didn't ask questions. I just went. When I got there, she shoved an envelope into my hands. I found this in an old storage box, she said. I didn't even realize I had it until now. I opened the envelope and my breath caught. Inside was a handwritten letter from my mom, a letter dated after the so-called new will had been signed. In it, she wrote about how she had just finalized her will, ensuring I was taken care of. This was proof that the will Monica submitted was a fake. I looked up at Margaret, my hands shaking. This changes everything. She nodded. That's why you need to be careful. If Monica and her people find out you have this, they'll do anything to stop you. I swallowed hard. I wasn't just fighting for my inheritance anymore. I was fighting for justice. And Monica? She had no idea what was coming next. I held the letter in my hands, my heart pounding. This was it. The proof. My mom had written this after the fraudulent will was supposedly signed. There was no way she had changed her mind and cut me out. Monica had faked the entire thing. I looked up at Margaret, my mother's best friend, who had just handed me the letter. This is enough to destroy her, I said, my voice shaking with emotion. Margaret nodded. Yes, but be careful. She won't go down without a fight. She was right. Monica had already proven she was dangerous. The break-in, the threats, the phishing scam. She would do anything to keep her stolen fortune. But I wasn't backing down. It was time to end this. I met with Daniel, my lawyer, the next morning. When I handed him the letter, he stared at it for a long moment, then let out a slow breath. This is exactly what we needed. I nodded. What's next? He leaned forward, a sharp glint in his eyes. We're going to play her. Daniel's plan was risky, but genius. We decided to leak that we had new evidence, but we didn't mention what it was. We let Monica and her people believe that we had some mystery document that could ruin her case. And just as we predicted, she panicked. 2 days after we leaked the news, I got another anonymous message. Name your price. Let's make this problem disappear. I stared at the screen in disbelief. She was trying to bribe me. I forwarded the message to Daniel, who immediately contacted the court. This is perfect, he said, barely able to hide his excitement. She's digging her own grave. Then, the next morning, things got even better. Monica made a huge mistake. I was grabbing coffee when I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up, and I'm so glad I did. A woman's voice, shaking, whispered, I need to meet with you. I have information on Monica, but you can't tell anyone we talked. I froze. Who are you? A pause. Then my name is Vanessa. I used to work for Monica's lawyer. I I know things, but I'm scared. That was all I needed to hear. I met Vanessa in a quiet cafe on the other side of town. She looked nervous, kept glancing around like she expected someone to be watching. What do you know? I asked, keeping my voice low. Vanessa swallowed hard. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. The will? It's not the only thing she faked. I leaned in. What do you mean? She took a shaky breath. Monica stole from your mom while she was alive. I felt my stomach twist. Vanessa pulled out her phone and scrolled through some old files. Then she turned the screen toward me. I nearly fell out of my chair. Bank transfers. Huge amounts of money. All withdrawn from my mother's account while she was in the hospital. And where did the money go? Straight to Monica. I stared at Vanessa. How do you have this? I was asked to delete these records, she admitted, but I kept a backup. I didn't know how bad it was until I saw the news about your case. I exhaled shakily. Monica hadn't just stolen my inheritance. She had been robbing my mother while she was dying. This was so much bigger than I thought. And now I had proof. When we walked into court a week later, Monica was all confidence. She had no idea what was coming. She shot me a smirk as she sat down. Crossing her legs like this was just another routine inconvenience. Her lawyer leaned in to whisper something to her. She nodded, flipping her hair over her shoulder. And then Daniel stood up. Your Honor, new evidence has come to light. The judge adjusted his glasses. Proceed. Daniel turned on the courtroom projector. The first image appeared. A bank statement showing a $50,000 withdrawal from my mother's account while she was in the hospital. Monica's smile vanished. Another image appeared. $100,000 transferred to Monica's personal account. The room went silent. And then Daniel pulled out the final weapon, Vanessa. She took the stand, voice shaking at first, but then she told the entire story. How Monica had funneled money out of my mother's accounts. How she had forged financial documents, just like she had forged the will. How she had asked Vanessa to cover it up, and how she had personally threatened her when she started having doubts. I turned to Monica. Her face was ashen. She wasn't smirking anymore. She wasn't anything anymore. She was finished. When the judge spoke, his voice was like thunder. Miss Monica Davenport, not only have you committed fraud, but you have also engaged in financial theft of a vulnerable individual. This is beyond reprehensible. Monica's lawyer tried to object, but the judge shut him down instantly. The court finds in favor of the plaintiff, the judge said, his voice final. The original will is null and void. The rightful beneficiary of Mrs. Davenport's estate is her son. I felt a lump in my throat. I had one, but the judge wasn't done. Furthermore, he continued, due to the overwhelming evidence of financial misconduct, I am ordering a criminal investigation into Miss Davenport's actions. A criminal investigation. Monica gasped, the first sound she had made in an hour. She turned to her lawyer, whispering frantically, but he just shook his head. She was on her own. And the final nail in the coffin? The judge froze all of Monica's assets until the investigation was complete. She couldn't touch a single cent. Her brand new car? Gone. Her designer clothes? Gone. Her luxury vacations? Over. She had stolen everything from my mother and me. And now, she was broke. And soon she'd be in prison. A few months later, Monica was officially charged with fraud, embezzlement, and elder financial abuse. Her high-powered lawyer dropped her as a client. Her rich friends vanished. And when I walked past her in court one last time, she wouldn't even look at me. Monica had spent her whole life stepping on people, using and abusing everyone around her. But in the end, she had destroyed herself, and I made sure she lost everything. Justice was finally served. Justice was finally served.